Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 playthrough of the Buffalo Wings. And we are about to begin the 2046 offseason. Appreciate all the thoughts on how our 2046 season went and what we should be considering this offseason. And if you're looking closely at our team financial situation, you'll notice that we are in a better financial situation than we were at the end of the past episode. And that is because I agreed with the conventional wisdom that several of you shared in the comments to our last episode. And we have made a trade and we have moved on from the starting pitcher, Harlan Campeau. We signed him as a veteran to a 3-year deal last offseason. Thought that he could definitely make a big impact on our team. And he had a bit of a down year for him, given the type of career he's had and even the way his ratings look at this point. 9-8, but with a 4.42 ERA for us. Missed a few games early in the year with some injuries after a very injury-plagued 2045 season with the Dodgers. And given his age and some injury issues the last couple years, we had a $15 million option on him and felt like our pitching staff was deep enough and young enough that we had good guys on board to replace him. So we decided to open up some money for the off season by trading him away. He honestly didn't have a ton of trade value. So when you consider a guy who still has a very impressive pitching profile, who's been a perennial all-star, won a Cy Young Award, and has a 119 ERA plus and a 75 FIP minus for his career, despite spending half of his career in Colorado. You can certainly argue that we didn't get much back in return for him, but that was what the market was, and we didn't even want to have to think about exercising the option because we didn't want him back next year, and we didn't want to decline the option and then have to pay that money. So we ended up trading away Campeau. We traded away the lefty reliever Kevin Hale, who had actually been dropped from our 40-man roster last year, was not particularly effective, and is not a bad pitcher, but he's not much more than a replacement level lefty. So he was not going to be on our team next year. Anyways, we did have to give up the 28-year-old outfielder Luis Raya, guy that we picked up in a trade last offseason. Felt like he was good organizational depth in the outfield, and at this point, that incredibly crazy outfield depth that we had for the last season or two is actually largely gone at this point in terms of players who are major league ready. Raya had a monster year in AAA, hit 329, 32 homers, 93 ribbies. Looks like he could be a useful bat at the major league level. But he just completed his last option year, and he was unlikely to make our 26-man roster. So can't say we were happy to include him, but we were willing to include him. And then also included 3 youngsters, Savion Cheeseborough, international, or he's not an international amateur. The other guy was an international amateur. He's a guy who we picked in the 9th round of the draft in 2043. Doesn't look like he's going to be a big-time player. Had a 4.62 ERA in A-ball this past year. Minor league pitcher Luis De Dios. He was the international amateur free agent. Also a guy who it's going to take perfect development for him to become a big-time or probably even a useful major league pitcher. And then we also had to give up the infielder Phil Carfagno. This is a guy who I like. I really like some things about him. He was a 6th-round pick back in 2042. I like his durability. I like his versatility and his overall defensive skills in the infield. I like a lot of things about his personality, but the guy just can't hit. He's 22 years old now, and he just hit 237 in A-ball. 89 WRC plus, and you look at that batting profile, and it's hard to envision any role at him in the majors in the future. So when he was a piece that would help get the deal done, we were willing to include him. Ended up being a 6-for-3 deal. Didn't get back any stars or stars in the making, but we hopefully did get back some useful pieces. We got a 26-year-old first baseman, Kevin Griffith. He was the guy that they were most interested in including in this trade. Basically brought him on board because he does have a couple of option years left, which is useful. And he does actually have a captain personality, which is also useful. With that batting profile, I don't envision him being on the 26-man roster. My thought is he'll be in AAA for the next 2 years, and then we will likely let him go. But if we do have injuries and we need a guy who won't embarrass himself with the bat and can at least be a positive influence in our clubhouse, we'll have that optionality down in AAA for the next couple of seasons. We also got a familiar name, 24-year-old Reagan Bursey. You may remember that name because he's a player who we originally drafted in the first round with a supplemental pick back in 2040. We ended up trading him to the Yankees along with Pat Carman in that deal almost 3 years ago that brought us Josh Fuchs, who we still hope could be a infielder of the future for us. Bursey doesn't look like he's going to be a big-time pitcher, but he's durable. He is a guy who has a profile where he could start or relieve. If he starts, he's a fifth starter. If he relieves, I think he's really just a middle reliever out of the pen. He does still also show as a average offensive type player who can play a number of defensive positions. We had been kind of trying to bring him up as a potential two-way guy. It does look like the Yankees have still been doing that. So I think he could certainly have some value as a middle reliever / long reliever / defensive substitution / occasional pinch hitter. I don't think he's going to necessarily excel in any of those roles, but when you put all those roles into one body, I think there is some value there, and he is another guy who still has one option year left, so we'll get to kind of see him back in our organization, most likely in AAA this upcoming season before needing to make a decision on him. And then we also got a real young prospect, 17-year-old Noe Santa, who is only got potential to be a reliever. Not great stamina, not great at holding on runners, but he is durable and does potentially have a plus fastball and plus sinker. Almost 18 years old now, another guy who could be a useful arm out of the bullpen 5 or 6 years from now for us. So not anyone overwhelming in terms of their potential in return, but players that are under control for the next few years, players who all have options left to go to the minors, and players who are on balance younger than the likes of Campo, Hale, and Raya, who were kind of the cornerstones of that trade. And with Campo gone, that does open up a little bit of optionality for us. We picked up the left-handed pitcher Jesus Fierro before the trade deadline last year. His contract is getting a bit expensive, although we did get the Braves to keep 25% of it. I think there is potentially, with Campo gone, a role for Fierro as a lefty out of our rotation next year. But I think it's also possible that we just decide to move on from Fierro. If it turns out that Nehemiah Vidale is a free agent pitcher, and if he's not looking for a 6 or 7 year contract at the age of 34, Vidale is a clearly dominant set of pitching ratings, an Iron Man as far as his injury proneness, a guy who's been a 4-time All-Star. good stamina, incredible at holding on runners, would clearly be an upgrade to almost any pitching staff in the history of Major League Baseball. So if Vidale does actually hit the open market, we would consider trading Fierro away to free up some more money, and perhaps even cutting back on our scouting and player development budgets to make a player like him fit on the roster. If he doesn't end up hitting free agency, we're probably not going to be incredibly active on the pitching market, because right now I like this 5-man rotation, and even with McClintock locked in as closer and Auclair locked in as stopper, we still have Palencia, Fierro, Caper, Toselli, and Manelli on the roster, who all could also be members of our starting rotation, most of whom will end up in the bullpen. But if we're going to be active at all in the free agent market for pitching, it's only going to be at the very top end of the market. Otherwise, we'll likely be running things back with this crew next season. And we've tried to offer all of our arbitration eligible players 1-year extensions. The problematic one is actually our second baseman, Romero Medina. He wanted to really get a long-term contract, 9 years he was looking for at well over $20 million a year. I think we're going to have to say no to one of our expensive players at this point. So we were trying to get him to sign a 1-year deal, and it didn't make him happy. So he says he doesn't want to talk about negotiations with us right now, which is fine, because we don't have to sign him before arbitration. We'd clearly prefer to, but we can still make an arbitration offer to him over the next few weeks if we're not able to get an agreement, and then he'll just go to arbitration, and he'll either be back with us at our number or his number. So he'll be back next year regardless. Would like to do it the easy way if at all possible, but it's not inconceivable that we might have to do it the hard way. We are going to submit qualifying offers to both the outfielder Josh Porter and our shortstop Damani Essien. I don't think Porter will accept the $18.9 million offer. He's looking for 5 years and almost $25 million a season. So tend to think that Porter will move on. We don't necessarily need him if he opts in, but I think 1 year, $18.9 million for Porter would be a very tradable contract if he did opt in and we decided we needed to open up the space to go after the top-end starting pitcher from the Guardians. Damani Essien, I think there is some chance that he will opt in to the qualifying offer. He's looking for 6 years, but he's only looking for $19 million a season. So it's not inconceivable to me that he'll take 18.9 for 1 year rather than risk going on the market. If we get him back, it kind of takes the pressure off of the likes of Palomo and Fuchs and even Wiesenbach to potentially try to replace him. It's almost a perfect scenario for us, I think, is a win-now team that doesn't necessarily have someone ready to fill in for Essien immediately, but probably will have 1 to 3 guys capable of taking the job from him a year from now. So I'm almost kind of hoping he does opt in. If he hits the open market, though, it still could be an option for us to pursue. But if he does hit the open market and we're not able to re-sign him, I'd prefer to get some compensatory draft pick compensation, which is why we've got an offer out to him, a qualifying offer as well. And as this offseason begins, our farm system now ranks 25th out of 32 in baseball. We were number 1 at the beginning of this year. So you may be asking, old school, you idiot, what have you done to your farm system? Well, over the course of this season, we've had three of the top 10 prospects in baseball in the outfielders, Casares and Toledo, and the starting pitcher, Danny Black, move on to the major league team. So we've got a ton of great young talent at the major league level. But that leaves us with a farm system that in the top levels is a little barren now with no top 50 prospects. Daniel Aguayo Leal, who did come up at the end of the year, likely to be on the major league team all year next year, particularly with the potential loss of Porter. Dan Glazewski, a 20-year-old who was our third-round pick in 2044, was a little better this year in rookie ball, his third year in rookie ball. We'll certainly promoting him to A ball next year now that he's 20 years old. Still looks like he could be a pretty useful major league bat in the outfield. Doesn't necessarily look like he's going to be a superstar, but could certainly see him as a starting corner outfielder or with the depth that we have in outfield right now, more likely maybe a fourth outfielder for us down the line. Sergio Cisneros, starting pitcher, who's still at the international complex. He was an international free agent signing almost 2 years ago. You may look at this profile and say, hey, knucklehead, old school. If that changeup doesn't develop, this guy is only going to be a reliever. And I do completely agree with that assessment, but he's not someone we invested a lot of money in. We got him for just $400,000, so I think he could be an excellent left-handed reliever, and there still is a chance with his stamina, his durability, his work ethic, and the potential to develop a third pitch that he could end up being a starter for us down the line as well. Ezekiel Salazar, another international amateur free agent, our final top 100 prospect, third baseman who moved up to A ball finally at the end of this year, hit 241 that level after a monster season in rookie ball. He'll likely be in high A and double A this coming year. Looks like he could be a useful and versatile utility player for us down the line. Could ultimately have a plus bat and could ultimately be able to play all over the field when all is said and done. Maybe kind of our version of a Kike Hernandez. We've also got three prospects in the top 200, ranked between 101st and 199th, or more accurately 200th. And they all happen to be pitchers ranked in the 170s, interestingly. Caleb Kreveling, first-round pick from 2044, has definitely not lit it up in rookie ball. Similar to Glazewski, who was picked in the same draft, we'll probably be moving him to A-ball this coming year, but he still has a lot of work to do to become a major leaguer. Caleb Leamy was our first-round pick the year after in 2045 and has had two pretty nondescript seasons in rookie ball thus far as well. Looking at what our scout thinks, there is still some potential there. And then Reagan Bursey, we just talked about, picked him back up. He's still viewed as a decent prospect and as a two-way guy. I think there is conceivably a role for him as a right-handed arm out of the bullpen and a utility infielder and outfielder with a bat that's not embarrassing down the line. Check in on a couple other players. Josh Fuchs is probably going to have to be on the major league roster this coming year because he just completed his last option year. Likely will be in more of a utility role, particularly if Essien does opt into his QO and comes back to us. But it is conceivable, given his glove, that we play him every day against right-handed pitching. Looking at his ratings, with that glove, he's playable against right-handed pitching. He's certainly not going to be great offensively, but he's not going to be a complete disaster. Against left-handed pitching, he probably is a complete disaster, though. So if he does end up starting for us, it'll only be against right-handed pitchers this upcoming season. Joe Grennan, you may remember, we picked him in the first round in 2045. He's been decent offensively overall. He was really good his first year in rookie ball, actually regressed a bit this year, but still looks like he's got a profile that he could be a solid backup catcher. And if he develops completely, he could be a borderline decent starting catcher down the line, but still a lot that he needs to learn. Joe Maslowski, fourth round pick from 2041. Looks like best case scenario for him is a back of the bullpen type of pitcher. His stuff just not going to likely be good enough to be a big time major leaguer. And then one final first round pick, Arfini Perkins, who was our first round pick in 2043. Still has not made it out of rookie ball. He's going to have to next year. He finally did at least put up above average offensive numbers. Contact and avoiding strikeouts were always going to be the issues for him. And thus far, through his minor league career, he hasn't made the types of progress on those fronts that we would have hoped. So that's a quick summary of where our minor league system stands. And now it's time to start simming through award season, finding out if we can get these arbitration eligible players all signed, and then ultimately we'll discover whether Essien or Porter accept their qualifying offers or decide to test the open market and see if there's greener pastures away from Buffalo. And as this offseason is getting underway, some really good news. We did have an opening from a retirement, and we've hired Sergio Santos to be our new bench coach, longtime minor league manager. And happy to have him on board. Excellent with development, legendary with mechanics, excellent handling aging. He's also involved in coaching and teaching catching defense was where we had the biggest need, so he happens to be outstanding there. He's got a personality that'll fit in well with the rest of the team. Only average relationships at the major league level, but no poor relationships. So think he was a good addition. So that is the good news, but we have some potentially devastating news here. Our incredible scout, who has been with us, I think, well over a decade at this point. 14 years at this point. And he was a godsend when we found him, and I think he's actually gotten better over the time that he's been with us. But he has an offer to become the general manager of the Guardians. Says he's going to sign with them unless we can get an extension signed soon or promotion to a better position within the organization. I don't really have a position to promote him to. I certainly would rather have him than our assistant general manager, Stillwatt Valerio. But I want Araujo to be a scout for us. So I will throw a crazy amount of money at him if he's willing to sign an extension to stay as our scouting director. But if he wants a promotion, there's really no point in firing Valerio and moving him to assistant GM, because that assistant GM is just kind of useless. I mean, honestly, if Araujo does leave from us, we may see if we can move Valerio into that scouting director role, but I don't know that he would be willing to do that since it's technically a demotion. We'll see. He says he would sign a 5-year deal at $1.64 million. I'm not even going to try to save a penny with him. And those of you who have watched know that I'm always trying to save the pennies. But I want to offer him exactly what he's looking for, because the main goal is to keep him around. And he's accepted it and signed our contract extension. So that is good news. Hopefully he won't renege on that and end up signing with the Guardians as their GM. Money can't necessarily buy you love, but it can buy you some degree of loyalty from your scouting director, apparently. And I guess, depending on how you define love, money probably can buy you love. And we've started to get some of our minor league free agents as well as some of our arbitration eligible guys signed. Lott and the new addition Griffith both signed. Danny Kashuk will be back with us. Jamari Habersham extension there. And Juan Ramirez as well, which the fans are happy about. We've also hired Zach Davies, or we thought we hired Zach Davies. Oh, we haven't hired him. That's unfortunate because we thought he was a really good opportunity. He was by far the best guy available to potentially be our pitching coach in rookie ball. And our former pitching coach in rookie ball, Cody Harris, was looking for a promotion. So we promoted Adrian Abar from A to high A, and then we promoted Harris from rookie ball to A ball to keep him happy. But we've got holes at both of our rookie league teams at pitching coach right now, and given the number of young pitchers we tend to draft and also sometimes pick up through IAFA, going to need to ensure that we get some pretty talented pitching coaches at those levels, so I'm going to keep working on that. And you can see it's a relatively limited opportunity set of coaches who would consider taking our rookie ball job. Zach Davies, clearly top among them, legendary at teaching pitching, outstanding development, excellent with mechanics. Would love to have him on board. He's looking for more money now than he was. He was looking for $35,000 a year last time, which is what we offered him. But he's the best guy out there, and with the number of high school and college pitchers we pick in the draft, we're going to be really aggressive to try to get him signed. We're going to offer him 5 years, $100,000 a year to come join our rookie league team. And hopefully we will get him on board. And unfortunately, we've been ghosted by Davies, the pitching coach that we really wanted. He never responded to our offer, even though it was for more money than he was even asking for. And you can see he's no longer on the market here, so we're going to have to go for someone a bit lower quality, unfortunately, to coach those most precious rookie league prospects. And we've gotten one pitching coach signed for our rookie league teams. Our FCL team, Chase Anderson, is on board. He's only good with development, but he's legendary with mechanics and excellent at teaching pitching. Had to spend $100,000 a year on him, and he was only willing to do a 2-year contract. He really wants to be a manager, but at least we've got him locked up. The latest guy we've been talking to for the DSL team, though, still looking for greener pastures somewhere else. So still have one opening to fill as we prepare for the beginning of award season tomorrow. And as I've talked about in previous episodes, I think we should have some pretty strong contenders for the Mariano Rivera Award. Definitely going to be winning some Silver Sluggers, or at least one Silver Slugger this year. Think we should have some Gold Gloves, and then think we're going to have strong contenders for Rookie of the Year, Cy Young Award, and MVP as well. I don't think we're going to sweep all the awards despite our great regular season, but of the 4 big awards, the Mariano Rivera, the MVP, the Cy Young, and the Rookie of the Year, I think we definitely could win multiple awards among those 4. And we do have at least one Gold Glove winner. And it looks like it's only one Gold Glove. And it's a rookie, a guy who is probably going to be in contention for Rookie of the Year. But Arturo Casares, who Many of you have suggested we move to center field someday, although we still have the excellent Mr. Velasco in center field. But with Casares' excellent outfield range, he tops off being a rookie all-star with a rookie gold glove award. And again, after he hit 272, 37 homers, 113 ribbies, 25 steals, and a 131 WRC plus, think that he is likely to be in a very intense competition with his teammate Danny Black for Rookie of the Year. But Casares starting off his career as an all-star, zone rating and defensive efficiency both well above average in left field, and for that matter in center field as well. But left field is where he played most of the time this year, and he wins the first of what will hopefully be many Gold Glove awards and many prestigious awards in general over the course of his career. And another day, another award, our stopper, Floyd Auclair, a unanimous winner of the Mariano Rivera Award. That's the second time he's won that award in his career. Our closer, Chris McClintock, actually finished second in the voting. So our bullpen was dominant. Auclair is now a two-time Mariano Rivera Award winner after a brilliant season. 1.54 ERA and 186 strikeouts over 128 and 2/3 innings working out of the pen, and he led the league in games pitched and holds for a fourth consecutive season. And another day for awards, and at least one more winner. For Silver Slugger, I will eat my microphone if Jim Reichert is not named a Silver Slugger winner at first base. And Jim Reichert is, of course, named a Silver Slugger winner at first base. He is our lone Silver Slugger winner this year. But Reichert, after a brilliant first full season in the majors when he led the league in homers and ribbies, setting all-time Buffalo Wings marks in both of those categories, and also led the league in slugging percentage, OPS, and WRC+. Gets a first Silver Slugger of his career, also in the year when he was named an All-Star for the first time. And Reichert is probably going to be getting some most valuable player votes in the next few days. And another day, another big award. Casares, almost a unanimous Rookie of the Year, but perhaps fittingly it was his teammate Danny Black who got the other first place vote, even though he only finished fourth in the voting somehow. Casares, with a brilliant regular season, he's already won a Gold Glove, and now he was already an All-Star, and now he's earned a Rookie of the Year to go with it. 272 average, 37 homers, 113 ribbies, 6.7 WAR on the season. Josh Klingsporn of the Pirates finished second, 260 average, 43 homers, 88 ribbies. Mike Etheridge of the Dodgers was third, right fielder who hit 325 and 36 doubles, 8 triples, 5 homers. He stole 52 bases, which is impressive, but he was caught stealing 34 times, which is just absolutely brutal. And our guy who finished fourth, Danny Black, I said it during the season that with the monster year Casares was having, I thought that Black was probably more likely to win the Cy Young Award than the Rookie of the Year Award, which is kind of crazy to think. I don't think he'll actually win the Cy Young Award, but given that he finished fourth in the Rookie of the Year voting, it's not inconceivable that he'll be closer to winning the Cy Young Award than he was to the Rookie of the Year Award after going a league best 18-5 with a 2.45 ERA, 169 ERA plus, 79 FIP minus, and a 4.6 WAR. And the manager of the year was just named Ronnie Labrie in his first year as a major league manager, wins the Manager of the Year award after guiding us to that great 109 win regular season. So we are at this point only 2 awards away from sweeping all of the major awards, since we've already won a Rookie of the Year and a Mariano Rivera Award winner, and we also just got a Manager of the Year. I don't think that Black is going to get the Cy Young Award, and I honestly think that Riker probably doesn't win the MVP. They probably give it to a guy who plays a more important defensive position than first base and had a monster offensive season similar to Riker, while also being more valuable defensively. But it's not impossible, and we'll find out very shortly. And there's no personalized email today, so we did not sweep all the awards. And I know that there's at least one viewer who is probably frustrated with me for spending so much time talking about the awards over the last few minutes. But it's entertaining to me, and it's fun for me to talk about, even though I tend to agree that in the big picture, not really all that important. But we'll see if I thought that Danny Black could be closer to the Cy Young Award than he was to the Rookie of the Year award does ultimately come true in the voting. And it was true. Danny Black finished 3rd in the Cy Young Award voting in a year where he finished 4th in the Rookie of the Year voting. Floyd Auclair, our Mariano Rivera Award winner, finished 5th in the voting. And Alexis Mendoza, for those of you who have watched our recent tutorial, a former high school player who we drafted who has had a really nice career over the years. We let him move out when he had finished his 6th full major league season and he was eligible for free agency. Since then, he's led the National League in ERA once, and he's had a nice run with both Buffalo and San Francisco, being a well above average pitcher in both stops. Was a guy that we couldn't afford to keep around, but nice to see him having another good season. Esteban Guerra of the San Francisco Giants wins the Cy Young Award. 2nd consecutive year that Guerra wins it. 12-5 with a league best 2.21 ERA, 230 strikeouts this year for the Giant. Over in the American League, Andres Partida, almost a unanimous winner of the Cy Young Award. It is his 3rd Cy Young in his career, 2nd in a row. Led the American League with 34 games started, 17 wins, and 293 strikeouts, in addition to an excellent 2.44 ERA. The man who we are thinking and hoping may hit free agency, Nehemiah Vidale, finished 3rd in the voting after his 10-10 season with a 3.17 ERA, although he did lead the league in WHIP, FIP minus, and WAR. Still no extension for him, so still holding out to hope that perhaps chasing Vidale may be something we do when free agency begins. And award season is now complete, and Jim Riker did win the National League MVP, and his rookie teammate Arturo Casares finished 3rd in the voting. Other Buffalo Wings who got votes include our center fielder Ishmael Velasco, our perhaps soon-to-be ex-outfielder Josh Porter, our rookie pitcher Danny Black, who finished 4th in the Rookie of the Year voting and 3rd in the Cy Young Award voting. All of those players got MVP votes as well. 3rd place finisher Casares, we've talked about him already since he won the Rookie of the Year Excellent season for him. 37 homers, 113 ribbies, 131 WRC plus. The runner-up, Steve Buchan, excellent shortstop for the Expos, led the National League in at-bats, hits, batting average, and WAR at 7.8. He's the type of guy who I thought would probably win the award over Reichert, but Reichert's numbers in the old school stats, home runs, ribbies, slugging percentage were enough to influence the voters, and it ended up not being that close of a vote. So Jim Reichert is the 2046 National League Most Valuable Player in his first year in the major leagues, or his first full year in the major leagues. Last year would have been a full year, except he missed the first 3+ months of the season due to an injury. So a pretty fruitful award season for the Buffalo Wings after a dominant regular season. Medina still is not interested in talking to us. So we're going to try to give him an offer that we think may go our way rather than a bigger figure that he's likely looking for. Still would love to get him signed before arbitration time, but no guarantees that that's going to happen. He is a very popular player, so we'd prefer to get the small boost to our already over 100 fan interest by signing him proactively rather than reactively through the arbitration process, but that may not be possible. And Ramiro Medina still not interested in discussing an extension with us with salary arbitration hearings tomorrow. We're going to be a little more aggressive. I know he's going to come in with a big number. It may cost us a few $100,000, but I would like to try to win the case against him. Not that it's really going to help his willingness to want to sign a long-term contract with us after this year, but if we can get him for less than whatever his number is going to be, which I'm guessing could be in the $16 to $17 million range, I think that'll still be good for us in case we want to get creative in the offseason. Free agency just a couple days after these arbitration hearings. Still have the QOs out to Porter and Essien. I tend to think Porter will definitely reject it. Essien, as we talked about, although he is looking for 6 years, I think there's a chance he might accept it. And both Porter and Essien did decline their qualifying offers and file for free agency. And we lost our arbitration case with Medina, so he's going to be getting $15.7 million this upcoming year. So Essien and Porter both on the open market. Medina signed, but for more than we would have hoped. So we don't have a ton of money available right at this moment. But if Vidale is out there when free agency filings happen tomorrow, we might be willing to not necessarily move heaven and earth to get him on our team, but if we have to cut back on scouting and player development and make some trades to be able to make a realistic run at him, it's something to consider. But again, only if it's probably like a 3-year deal. I don't know that I want to be given a 5 or 6 year deal to a pitcher of his age, even though he is excellent. And we've made it to the start of free agency, which will highlight the end of this episode. But before we check in on the major league free agents, let's take a look at the international free agents, see if there's anyone who piques our interest. Right-handed reliever Yu Wei Ayong looks like a useful right-handed arm out of the bullpen. Looking for $4 million with the bullpen depth that we have. Think it's pretty unlikely that we'll be pursuing him, but can at least get an updated scouting report on him. Juan Mojica, second baseman, 31 years old, looking for $7 million. Some pretty negative personality traits. Probably not the answer for us. Takashi Yasuda, decent defensively, decent personality, not much of a bat, not looking for crazy money. I think we'll probably go in a different direction for our utility infielder, but we'll at least get a scouting report on him. Sergio Anguiano, corner outfielder, 27 years old. Doesn't look like he's necessarily even looking for a major league contract. We'll request a scouting report on him, and although he's greedy and not the best leader, having a bat like that in AAA, just kind of waiting, isn't necessarily the worst thing. So we'd offer him a minor league contract. Right fielder Yuki Mori, like his speed, like the defense potential, question his bat. He's already been signed by the Mets, so out of play. And those seem to be the most interesting international free agents. Pitching-wise, Vidale is on the market. Our old buddy Alexis Mendoza on the market. Really good infielder in Max Zeiger. Porter and Essien from our team. 38-year-old shortstop Roman Maples, a guy we thought about drafting, number 2 overall. Many, many seasons ago when we ended up going with Ali Ostendorf in that spot. So some interesting players to think about, especially given that infield, specifically shortstop, is still a potential need for us. We've got money, and we can certainly make that money higher. It's really just a matter of seeing what some of these guys are looking for, and then, as I touched on, how aggressive we might be willing to be in terms of cutting back scouting and player development. We are a win-now team, and we are in the late innings of this playthrough, so there is certainly an incentive for us to just try to go for it. Our old buddy, the closer Joe Scott, also on the market. I don't think we're realistically considering him at all, but it'll be interesting to see what he's looking for. 3 years, $13.7 million a year. Good luck to you, Joe. Alexis Mendoza, our former starter, fragile physically. Don't think we'll go here. 7 years at almost $27 million a year for a 33-year-old. No thank you, but best of luck to you as well. Vidale, I think the years are going to be the concern for me. Nothing else about him is a concern with that 125 career ERA plus 71 FIP minus. The fact that we don't have a lefty in the rotation if we move on from Fierro to make room for Vidale, and just a extremely impressive pitching profile. But how many years is he going to be looking for? 6 years at an average of 33.5 a year. I would do a shorter contract, probably even for more money. Now, it's going to be tricky to make it work. We've got less than $10 million available this year. But if we do trade away Mr. Fierro, we're responsible for 75% of that 15.4. So close to $12 million more that comes off, which puts us in the low 20s. You know, we make another trade or two and or cut scouting and development, and it's not impossible for us to get into the low to mid 30s as far as the money that we have available. So we can make a run at Vidale if we want. Have one thing that I'm going to need to check on before we think about that decision, but before that we will just look at a couple of the batters who are out there. Max Zeiger, we could use a captain but he's wrecked physically. He's almost 36, and he's not incredible defensively. And he's looking for 5 years, almost $34 million a year. I think I'd go with Vidale over Ziegler. Damani Essien. Oof, he's really increased his demands. That's interesting. He was 6 years, $19 million when he was talking to us before we let him hit free agency. So looks like he was willing to give us a little bit of a hometown discount. But at his age, and with, as we've talked about, Palomo, Fuchs, and Weisenbach knocking on the door of potentially being a long-term shortstop, or perhaps a long-term shortstop platoon among those guys, I don't think a 6-year commitment to Essien makes sense. Porter, 6 years, almost $30 million a year. So he was willing to give us a little bit of a hometown discount too. We weren't really interested in bringing him back with the fact that we've already got Casares, Velasco, Toledo, and Aguayo Leal to cover the 3 outfield positions in likely DH. Jaheim Lawal played short for us a year ago. 7 years, $16 million. I don't think that's the answer. Roman Maples, not the bat that he used to have, still more than competent defensively. The fans love him, but he's wrecked physically, 38 years old. He's looking for a 5-year contract, almost 19 a year. So if one of these shortstops lingers, maybe we go for them, but maybe we just mix and match among the youngsters this year. We're set at first with Riker. We're set at second for at least one more year with Medina. We're set at third with Ferguson. You know, can between Palomo, Fuchs, and maybe even Weisenbach, can we cover shortstop with those guys and at least see how it goes over the first couple months of the season, and then hit the trade market if it doesn't work out? I think that is a plausible and perhaps rational scenario for us, particularly if we are going to consider going after Nehemiah Vidale. So the open question that I alluded to before I looked at the batters and hinted at, and I'm sure some of you know where I am going with this, but the open question at this point is, what does the trade market look like for Mr. Jesus Fierro? And if we shop around Mr. Fierro, there are some options for him. Now, they are all expensive options, big contracts coming back, so that is not great. Could get our old buddy Luis Comaduran back. I'll shop for prospects. I'm not expecting to see much here. So this is, it's going to be trickier to get Fierro off the books. Obviously, we want to clear as much money as possible. So this is more exploratory than anything. Are there some options if we keep 25% of his contract? And there are guys who are making very little money if we do that, but not a lot of them, quite honestly. But if we keep 25% of his, there's a guy on a minor league contract, a few guys on a minor league contract. I mean, they're not prospects. They're guys in their late 20s and 30s. But if we're willing to, our old buddy Devin Cabuto, back to the tutorial video I put out on high school pitchers. It was more generally ways to build an effective pitching staff for those of you who haven't watched it. But another high school pitcher that we picked up and ended up moving on from, but has developed into not a great major league starter, but at least a competent solid major league pitcher, working more out of the bullpen last year with Atlanta. So if we include a decent prospect with Fierro, we can probably get him off the books without having to keep much of his contract. If we include a real good prospect, I'm sure we can get him off the books without retaining anything. So that's something that I'll be thinking about and working on offline before our next episode. The other guy who we would consider moving on from might be Chris Lott. Going to be making $4 million next year, and he's a good, competent major league pitcher, but he's not going to be in the rotation because either Fierro or Vidale would be instead of him. And honestly, even if we can't land Vidale and we do trade away Fierro, the youngsters Ari Caper and Joey Bills are likely as good a profile as Lott, if not better. So given that Lott is making a little bit of money now and he's probably going to be a $4 million middle reliever for us, could look at the market for him as well. I did look at it before this episode, a few weeks ago in game action at this point, and I actually was somewhat underwhelmed with the offers that we got for Lott. Maybe it's a little bit different now. I mean, there's some talented players we can get in return, but there's also a lot of guys who are middling players on pretty mediocre contracts available for him. So there's some trade value there, and he can maybe help us get a deal done at some point this offseason. But in some ways, it's a similar list to what we can get for Mr. Fierro when we're keeping 25% of Mr. Fierro's contract. But there are options out there. And if we do make a trade, we could engage on Mr. Vidale, and adding Vidale into the top of this rotation, which next year is going to be Lance, and we've already got Black set as our potential number 2 guy. Vidale would slot in as our 2 guy. Black would be 3rd. Barajas would be 4th, which, given the very distinguished career he has, and even at the age of 38, the solid pitching profile he still has, and the solid year he had a year ago, if you've got Alexis Barajas as a number 4 pitcher, you're in pretty good shape as a win-now team. We bring Vidale on board. The pitching will be better on paper next year than it was in this incredible season. Now, the offense, with the losses of Essien and Porter, is going to be weaker, but Aguayo Leal played a handful of games for us last year. Toledo was only up half a season. So I think between those 2 guys, we can replace most of Porter's offense. It's really a matter of, are we willing to turn the shortstop job over to Palomo, Fuchs, and or Weisenbach? And if we're willing to do that and recognize that we're unlikely to get the same offense that we got from Essien last year, we're probably positioned where we can make a play at Vidale. I'll give it some thought. If you've got ideas, it's always helpful for me to hear them. Right now, I am inclined to try to trade away Fierro and or Lott to open up some money and make a legitimate run at Nehemiah Vidale. Although he's 34 years old, he's an Iron Man as far as his injury proneness. His ratings are still exceptional. We got a report on him after the season that's relatively recent. And he's coming off of another excellent year. He'd be a huge upgrade for any pitching staff, including ours. I think my only question is how many years am I willing to go? I think I'd conceivably offer him $35 million a year for 3 years, and then maybe a team option for the fourth with a big number. I don't know whether he'd go for that. I don't know that I want to go 5 or 6 years on him, but definitely be a bold move, Cotton, to add him to what's already the best pitching staff in baseball. So we've got some interesting decisions to make in the trade market and potentially in free agency. If you've got thoughts on which direction we should go, I'd love to hear them in the comment section. And until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.